Muscle cars used to be pretty common, but as car technology has advanced over the years, I think it's kind of gotten lost through all the tech and all the advancement that cars have made. But is the Terminator Cobra the last great muscle car from Ford? Well, let's discuss a few things about it and find out. Now, oftentimes when someone talks about muscle cars, you think of the 1960s, the real old school cars like that, the Yanko Camaros, Barracudas, all those classic cars back then. And as you advance in technology, I think you lose a lot of what the muscle car really was. And if you were to define what it is now, there's all kinds of different opinions. The way I see it is, it's an affordable car that gives you the bare bones of what it does. It's got one purpose. It's meant to be powerful and fast, and it accomplishes that without any compromises or any forgiveness when it comes to that kind of stuff. And if you look at more modern cars, like take the Shelby GT350 or the Shelby GT500, and compare that to the Shelby GT350 and 500 from the 1960s. The 1960s versions were definitely muscle cars, but you jump ahead to today's technology and it's not quite the same. You can't have a car with all these built-in amenities and all these creature comforts built into it and still call it a muscle car, while the GT350 and 500 of today are definitely impressive for what they are. I think they surpass that bar of what a muscle car really is, and they start entering that realm of something that's just a little bit different and more. And that's one of the aspects of a muscle car too, is something that's affordable, and the other reasons that I gave just a few minutes ago in the video about everything that kind of surrounds what the car actually is. But if you take some of the cars leading up to the 2003 and 2004 Cobra, like the 1995 Cobra R, the 93 R, the 90s Cobras, 94, 96, 98, all those years, I think you could make the argument that some of those are muscle cars. Probably not the R's, because the affordability aspect comes into it. And of course, inflation and everyone's income is different, so affordability for everyone is always going to be a bit different from person to person. I think you can also make the argument that since the Terminator Cobra, except for maybe a couple cases, and I'll bring that up in just a minute, that there really hasn't been a lot of cars that can really fit into the category of what a muscle car is. The only ones that I can really think of, but before I get to those, I'm going to eliminate quite a few of them. I don't believe the 2014 to current GT500 fits the criteria for a muscle car. They are priced pretty high. They have a lot more tech built into them than what you would consider a muscle car actually having. And there are other specialty Mustangs that have come out since then, like the Roushes and Celines and stuff like that, that also fall within that same kind of category, where price-wise, they're out of the ballpark for a lot of people where they could afford something much cheaper, but those cars are unattainable for them. A few of the cars that come to mind that do fit that category, that were built around the same time and a little bit later than the 03-04 Cobras, one of them being the 2000 Cobra R, and what I call the forgotten Mustang, because everyone seems to forget about this Mustang, but it's a 2013 Boss 302. Now, between those two cars, they both achieve some of the muscle car criteria, but not all of it, especially the 2000R, because it is so hard to attain with so few of them, and the fact that they're so expensive. They were around 60 grand brand new, and they still pull that kind of money now, and if not even more, depending on the mileage, and a lot of people just have them as collector's cars at this point. So that leaves the Boss 302, made in 2013, doesn't have a lot of tech built into it. It's a dual overhead cam V8, came with 444 horsepower and 380 foot-pounds of torque, so that fits the the criteria of being powerful, it's purpose-built, it handles really well. The MSRP on that car, brand new, was $42,000, where the MSRP on an 0304 Cobra was $35,000. But if you take the inflation between 2003 and 2004, a Cobra that cost $35,000 in 2004 would have cost $42,000 in 2013 due to inflation. So the same people that could afford an 0304 Cobra are the same ones that would have been looking at getting a 2013 Boss 302. And I was going to do this video too was this the last true muscle car ever made? But there's way too many cars out there to really break it down between every make, every model, trying to dissect all of that. And so I kind of scaled it back to just Ford. So strictly my opinion, that leaves two cars. That leaves the Terminator Cobra and the Boss 302 as the two last true muscle cars from Ford. But does the Boss 302 really fit that category? And I think one of the criteria that it really has to have is name recognition. If you look back at all these 60s Mustangs and you think muscle car, you think Shelby GT 500, GT 350, you think the Barracudas, you think Yanko Camaros, 427 Cobra Jets. There was just so many awesome cars back then that fit that mold in what everyone would consider a muscle car. Now if you fast forward to today, the Terminator Cobra status it's up there pretty high. These cars are still very well known. They still command a lot of money to buy one of these, especially if you want some of the lower mileage ones. They're gonna pull a premium price. So that comes down to, it has the name recognition of the older 60s muscle cars for sure, without a doubt. These cars are famous on the street, they're famous on the internet. Everyone that knows anything about powerful Mustangs is going to know and recognize what a Terminator Cobra is. But then you go back to the Boss 302, and I said earlier, everyone that I personally call it the forgotten Mustang, because no one really ever seems to talk about the Boss 302, and it's not that it's not a good Mustang, I think it is, but I just think it got overshadowed by a lot of other things. And when it comes to this video, as far as breaking it down, is that truly the last muscle car built? And I really can't give it that criteria because of its name recognition. While it's the Boss is a popular Mustang, but the 2013, it just doesn't grab the attention of consumers and the attention of the internet and everything else like the Terminator Cobra does. So if you eliminate all the more modern cars that are powerful and fast because they have a lot of technology built into them, and it's out of the price point for a lot of people. I couldn't afford a brand new Shelby GT 500, I know that. So if you eliminate those, you eliminate the Boss 302, it leaves the 2003, 2004 Terminator Cobra. But within that, does that fit the criteria for actually being considered a muscle car? And I think it does, because these cars don't have any creature comforts. It doesn't have a lot of technology built into it. The most modern technology built into this is traction control, which for mine is turned off. A lot of them have traction control turned off in the tune. Mine's one of them. It has IRS, which back then it was considered breaking edge for a Mustang to have IRS suspension in it, but now it's not so common. But if you factor in all the other things about this car, it has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's just to be an absolutely brutal street car. These cars can be made fast for the track, but they have a reputation of being extremely powerful when built with the right mods, and they're extremely brutal on the street against a lot of other cars, modern cars, older cars, cars around their age. It takes out a lot of other cars when these are modded. So its reputation is there, its purpose for what it does is there. The affordability is the only thing that I can really knock it on, because a lot of people still find these cars to be expensive. If you're looking at getting one of these cars that's in good shape and it's well taken care of, you're going to spend anywhere between $20,000 to over $30,000. It's somewhere in that ballpark range. For some people, that's not a big deal. For others, it's a little bit more of a hassle to try and finance or to outright buy something like that. And for most people as well, like my F-150, which is just a regular basic truck, costs $10,000 more than what I paid for this car. So the payment on this wasn't a big deal for me compared to just having a regular everyday truck. But it's the aspect of that most people don't usually daily drive these, so it's the factor of having two vehicles that you're paying for at that point. And that's what I think a lot of people have to struggle with. It's not that I think a lot of people can't afford a $20,000 or $24,000 car. I think it's when you add it on top of also owning something else to go along with it, especially if you live in a state where you can't drive it year-round, or if you don't want to daily drive it anyway. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Is this the last great muscle car that Ford ever made? Are there other ones that I forgot about that you want to mention? Or do you think one of the other cars that I mentioned holds that status more than this does? But let me know in the comments below. I'd like to, just to know your thoughts as well. But thanks very much for watching, everyone. I appreciate all the views, likes, and subs, and we'll have more stuff coming up soon. Until next time.